Hello everyone, welcome back to another interesting analyst session. Today we are going to comprehensively discuss 7 articles under 2 sections. These articles have been sourced from the Indian Express and the Hindu. Section A, wherein we will analyze 2 articles in depth. First article deals with India-Singapore relations, brief history, significance of the relations, persisting issues and the way forward on the same. Second article is on the aspect of higher education, current statistics, issues plaguing the sector and the various initiatives taken by India, the reforms that could be adopted. Next in section B, which is the simplified section, we will take another 5 articles along with the value addition part. This will help you in your upcoming prelims. So stay tuned. So the first article of the day is about India-Singapore relations. So starting from 1950s and even before that, we have seen the progress of relations between India and Singapore. And recently, we saw the signing of comprehensive strategic partnership between the 2 countries. And now, since the president of Singapore is in India, there are discussions on enhanced bilateral relationship. So let's see what has been the historical evolution of the relations between the 2 countries and how can we further improve them. So beginning with trajectory so far. First of all, let's talk about the historical ties that we have had. So Stamford Raffles, Stamford Raffles, he established a trade center on the Strait of Malacca during 1820s, exactly 1819, and it led to, however, this area was governed colonially by British government from the seat that was placed in Kolkata, and this continued till 1865 or 1860s. Now this got changed, and after independence we saw India became one of the first countries to recognize city-state of Singapore as one of the diplomatic countries, and that happened in exactly 1965. So this has been the trajectory so far, and in this we also saw the enhancement of the relationship to strategic partnership in 2015 when Prime Minister Modi visited Singapore, and recently we saw the further enhancement to comprehensive strategic partnership. Now coming to trade, infrastructure and economic cooperation, we can see trade-wise Singapore as one of the ASEAN countries occupies around 27% of the share of India's share components. So that way it figures prominently, and if we talk about the FDI in particular, it accounts for 23% of FDI that India receives. So by that data, you can understand what is the magnitude of importance and significance that India and Singapore enjoys in case of economic relations. Then there is a case of UPI partnership and cooperation, which of course helps us in easing the remittances and the transactions across 2 nations. Then coming to defense and security. Here also we have seen again upgradations of relations. We have seen cooperation agreements signing in case of naval agreements also. Again, another in defense agreements. We have been carrying on multiple exercises, be it the Navy exercises, Army exercises or Air Force. Some of the names could be SIMBEX, which is marine level bilateral exercise, and then there is SINDEX also. Remember, these names could be asked in your prelims. Then there is also bold Kurukshetra exercise, which takes place between these countries and in the plethora of army. So these 3 exercises in the case of defense. Then as you can see, they have also signed partnership agreement, strategic partnership, comprehensive strategic partnership when it comes to security also. Further moving forwards, education and science and tech development, we have analyzed and seen that this relationship has further developed and improved. We have actively signed and we have actually helped with our ISRO's participation, where microsatellite of Singapore was launched using ISRO's capabilities. Then there is also participation and cooperation from the aspect of Aadhaar identity cards. As in, there will be active partnership and cooperation between these countries where expertise of Aadhaar-based identity system would be shared with Singapore. Coming back to cultural and P2P ties, we can see around 9 to 10% of Singaporean population is of Indian origin. So by that you can understand that there are largely cultural, P2P, linguistic based relations. In fact, Tamil is one of the official language in Singapore. Cultural wise, like I said, it's the linguistic, it's the people to people and religion based affinity is also existing. Then multilateral wise, we can see there is cooperation on various platforms and various policies has also been undertaken, including Act India policy. We have also been cooperating on the aspect of and on the platform of Indo-Pacific Ocean, because we need to ensure that active freedom of navigation ensures the peace and stability, the regional stability stays when it comes to Indian Ocean and the neighborhood areas. So this is the trajectory so far that we have seen. Now coming to its location, as you can see, on the right side you can see countries such as Malaysia, then there is Borneo, and on left hand side Malaysia, then there is Indonesia as well. So you can see the location. Again, various straits are also there, which going ahead we will talk, and its geological importance as well. Now coming down to again to the point of significance that Singapore has and why it figures important in the trajectory of international relations when it comes to India. So first of all, semiconductor push. Going by some statistics and data, you can see that it holds around 10% of global semiconductor output. So not just from the regional perspective, but from the global perspective, it is a very important country. It has the expertise in semiconductor sector, where India is trying to develop its manufacturing capacity. Then second, Singapore also acts as a bridge to Southeast Asian nations, which gets covered largely under ASEAN. Many countries, like I mentioned and shown you in this map, like Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei, all of these are Southeast Asian economies, and one of the prominent organizations such as this international organization ASEAN has 10 of the Southeast Asian economies, where Singapore is one of them. So therefore it acts as a bridge. It can enhance cooperation when it comes to India and the relations between 10 economies. Then also, like I said, it has a very strategic location, surrounding by various countries, surrounding by various shipping routes, oil routes, and lanes of navigation. So first of all, as you can see, there is Strait of Malacca, which is very crucial, not just for India and maintaining its energy security. China also keeps an eye on the strait to ensure its oil security and its mineral oil security. So there is one Strait of Malacca. As you can see, this lies between the location of Malaysia and Singapore on the northern side and Indonesia on the southern and the bit of western side. Then there is another strait known as Sunda Strait, which is also relatively near to Singapore, but of course it lies between two islands of Indonesia. So you can also remember this. This is also very crucial. It lies in Indian Ocean and could act as a choke point for countries like China. And again, it's important for India's geopolitical location as well. Coming down to investment flows. So first of all, I have already mentioned India receives its highest share of FDI from Singapore, of almost to the tune of 23 to 24%. So again, it highlights the economic importance, the trade relations that we maintain with this country. It also tells us about the significance, speaks volume of the significance of this country, why it is important and crucial to have healthy and holistic two-way relationship. Now, as you can see, economy of Singapore, even in ASEAN, it has a prominent place. When you compare it with other countries, you can see that it lies among, you keep it in comparison with countries such as India, Japan, China, European Union, USA. Singapore as largely and most of the time is being counted as a prominent part of ASEAN economies. That's why the comparison is made between ASEAN and other countries. Having said that, there are also challenges that lie. So we have to first of all understand so that we can further work on improving and enhancing our bilateral relationship. First of all, the key area remains Chinese presence. Chinese presence in the form of, as you can see, 85% of the investment that you would see coming to Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, it seems to come via route of Singapore. So one of the prominent and significant point is that BRI investments. Second is that Singapore stands and in fact, China is the third largest trade partner of Singapore. So this is one crucial statistic that you can remember, and it speaks loud of the relationship that Singapore has with Chinese. Then there are trade concerns. So when it comes to trade, especially India has a comparative advantage in sectors such as services. However, India do not get enough and adequate access in the market of Singapore for various reasons, of course, that needs to be solved. But there are trade concerns with regards to access, with regards to presence of other economies and unequal treatment. So that is there. Then Singapore generally acts as tax haven. What do I mean by tax haven? Like I said, India receives most of its foreign direct investment through Singaporean route. Now, it doesn't necessarily indicate that entire investment is coming from Singapore itself. It is one of the route. Why? It acts as tax haven. Tax haven generally gives certain incentives and low tax rates so that most of the investment gets routed through these countries. So one of the countries is Singapore, and that's why multiple routing, the menace of multiple routing is seen via getting such kind of investment. So this is one of the challenge that we see. Then there is a case of gold smuggling. It has been seen, it has been witnessed to, has been increasing on international platform when it comes to Singapore to India. And generally, the smugglers use these workforce who are coming from Singapore to India via gold jewelry. So this takes place, again, the cause of gold smuggling. Then there is increasing and enhanced anti-India sentiments that we witness generally in workplaces and also on social media. Sometimes it raises controversy, sometimes it also raises a question on the effective steps taken by the Indian embassy for the welfare of the workforce that is living in Singapore. So these are some of the major challenges. Apart from it, as you can see, these are some of the details and stats regarding to Singapore, which tells about the magnitude that it holds at the global scale. So it has a population of this range, and the main religion is Buddhism, which is of course, in alignment with India's one of the prominent religion. Capital city, of course, it's Singapore. Now coming to Singapore Green Plan. This is, in fact, is not a challenge. This could be one of the successful case studies, one of the successful initiatives, if successful, could be emulated in India. As we go towards the reforms needed or improvements that we can ensure, we will deal with it as well. Even in World Talent Ranking, you would see that Singapore figures prominently. It mostly either is on the first rank or among the top 3 ranks. So this is the expertise which we can use and have healthy relations with Singapore. Now, what can be the way forward? Now that we have analyzed various challenges and issues plaguing this relationship, now we shall go towards the way forward and what steps can we take. So we have to actively and urgently ensure third review of CISA, which is nothing but Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement. It is under the Trade and Economy section. Therein, we have to ensure that this remains two-way. The mutual concerns are addressed. It is business friendly so that active investment is taking place across the borders. Also, the concerns regarding multiple routing that occurs, of course, because of the clause of tax haven that Singapore is. So this needs to be addressed. Second, coming down to review of ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement. Why in particular goods? Because there is a lot of dumping done by countries such as China. It also gets through Singapore, among other countries. So we need to see that this goods agreement is facilitative and it's beneficial for both of the countries, India as well as Singapore. So we need to review it as well. Then we have to mitigate anti-Indian sentiments. How can we do it? Of course, by making a good perception also, as well as working on actual efforts. We have to ensure that, and in fact set up a helpline or a support system in the Indian embassy, where the Indian people, people of ethnic Indian origin people can probably approach and register their grievances so that they could be solved mutually. Then it comes to urban planning and development. Singapore in particular has an expertise in urban planning, infrastructure development, sustainable cities. So we can of course use and emulate such kind of good case studies and good examples, and probably cooperate on a dual basis so that this could be implemented in India also. Leveraging services trade. Like I said, one of the prominent sector that needs to be taken care of when we are discussing our trade relations is the segment of services. Why? Because India in particular has a comparative advantage in services sector. It is low cost, it doesn't need land availability as such, it needs skilled labor force, which India is, of course, India has in adequate amount. So this, again, we need to leverage this sector, and of course, Singapore could use some of the provisions to its advantage. Now, this was the India-Singapore relations. Coming down to the questions, mains practice question on this topic, please try solving this question. Evaluate the strategic importance of India-Singapore relations. In the context of India's Act East policy, how has this relationship evolved over the past decade? So try answering this question in 250 words. Now we will move towards the second article of the day, which is on the segment and the theme of higher education. So there are certain roadblocks that we have seen in this sector, and there is this article which talks about decreasing enrollment in MTech courses, in particular MTech courses, but we are overall dealing with all the challenges that this sector, that is the higher education sector, faces overall. So as per All India Council of Technical Education data, which has come out in this article, there is a trend of declining interest in MTech courses. This is just one of the symptoms. The main problem lie in the structure and the initiatives that have been undertaken under higher education. Of course, they have been taken with the good intentions. Some of them have worked, some of them needs improvement. So let's go in depth and know more about it. First of all, what is the current status? As in, how does this sector exist at the Indian level? So in education system, as you can see, there are various levels. There is school education and then there is higher education. In this article, we are particularly dealing with this aspect. So again, under higher education, there could be distance education, there could be university education, there could also be another aspect of vocational education. University education again could be of three types when it comes to higher education. It could be undergraduation, so there could be UG courses. Then it could be post-graduation courses. Also, it could go up till PhD levels and others. So you have to remember that we are dealing largely with higher education. Now, first of all, we'll talk about the student enrollment. At the higher education level, remember that I am not talking about the overall education sector of India. I am specifically dealing with one of the aspects of education, which is higher education. So now I'm talking about college and universities enrollment. So student enrollment in higher education. So when it comes to this, we have seen that as per this data, which is of 2021-22, we have seen that there is enrollment of about 4.3 crores of students. And this has seen an improvement because in 2020-21, there were just 4.1 crore students. So this has seen increased increment. Again, if we deal it by, if we divide it on the basis of gender, then you would see in case of female registration, you would see around, it has seen almost 2 crore enrollment and it has gone up from 1.5 crore during the year 2020-21. So these are two data. These are for women enrollment in higher education. Again, gross enrollment ratio and gender parity index. So gender parity index is nothing. It's just the ratio between female gross enrollment ratio divided by male enrollment ratio. So gross enrollment ratio of India lies at 28. In fact, it is 28.6, more than 28%. But it is still lower than the global level, which exists at 36%. So you can note that also. But even at 28.6, it has seen great improvement and it has increased from its own level during previous years. But again, it is lower than the world's level. Again, if we are talking about gender parity index, which is the ratio between the female enrollment and male enrollment, we see this index is around 1.01, which indicates what? That there are more females as to the males when it comes to the enrollment at the higher education level, which is one positive indicator. We can also note down this data. Now, if we talk about discipline-wise enrollment, so there could be multiple disciplines like social sciences, then there could be humanities, engineering. So if I have to tell you that there are UG courses, there are postgraduate courses, and there are PhD. Now, at both of these levels, undergraduation and post-graduation, you would see that it is the social sciences, or you can call it humanities, that they have the highest enrollment. But when it comes to PhD, it is actually the engineering which has the highest enrollment. So you can note down this as well. Now, this was the discipline-wise enrollment. Now, to talk about the primacy of government institution, what does this mean? This means that of all the universities and colleges that we have at the level of higher education, it is the primacy of government institutions. Almost 69 to 70% of all the institutes are government-based institutions. However, you can see the rest of it, of course, it lies in private sector. So this is general indication and division of higher education enrollment, comparison with various genders, comparison discipline-wise, and also government and whether they are private. This can tell you what is the current status at the India scale. Now, there are also that we have undertaken various initiatives also from time to time to, of course, improve our enrollment ratio as well as the quality at the higher education level. First of all was National Education Policy that we undertook in 2020, and it very specifically talked about higher education segment where it focused on multidisciplinary learning. And second, it also talked about skill development, vocational courses, and there was also increased focus on, again, like I said, skill development, vocational courses, multidisciplinary, and with collaboration between academia and industries. So these are 4 or 5 key points that you can remember about higher education part of the National Education 2020. So this initiative has first of the initiative which is prominent. Then there is also a scheme of institutions or institutes of eminence scheme, which actually selects around 20 institutes and which provides it the complete autonomy. When I say complete autonomy, it is in terms of curriculum design, funding, faculty recruitment, designing courses. So that kind of autonomy is ensured to 20 of these institutes. And then there is National Credit Framework. How does this help, or what the primary cause and the primary purpose of the initiative of National Credit Framework? It will enable a student to generate and store the academic credit in an academic bank. Whenever that student or the person needs to utilize those credit, it can use it to probably get some skill certificates. So this is one of the important credit framework. It will ensure the integration of skill development and vocational education within the degrees and education. So next is the NIRF ranking. What is this ranking? This is National Institutional Ranking Framework. Government of India came up with this ranking few years back. What was the purpose and what was the main reason? Because there were certain ranking existing at the global level. However, they were not coinciding with the needs and requirement at the India level. There were certain parameters which did not align with the conditions that exist in India, maybe including social responsibility. So those kind of factors were not included. That's why Government of India came up with this ranking, which included all the relevant parameters that are actually utilized and are needed on India scale. Then again, this ranking in fact, ranks various institute, universities and college from different disciplines, be it medical, be it engineering, be it colleges, institute, research institutes. So there is annual ranking that comes up and it tells where does the institute lies and what is the grading of that institute. So that constant, that quality and constant capability to improve and further make increments in their quality is there. Then there are some digital initiatives. One of the very famous ones is Swayam. It ensures that there are online courses, freely available for students, whoever wants to learn and work on their knowledge aspect. So this is about online courses. When it comes to National Digital Library, it gives you the access to online resources, books, research papers and all of that. So these are two another very prominent initiatives, digital initiatives. Coming down to foreign institutes in India, last year in 2023, UGC came out with its own guidelines with respect to development of branches and campuses of various foreign universities in India. And there was also provisions with regards to provisions and the autonomy that these institutes would be allowed with. But it had to be those top 500 institutes that exist at the global level. Only those institutes were given that freedom. Then there is scheme under Inspire. This scheme lies under the Department of Science and Technology. It is under further the scheme of Inspire scheme. What is SHE? This is the scholarship for higher education. This is given at UG and post-graduation level to those students who take keen interest in researching and have aspirations to develop their careers in research and development perspective and career lines. So these are some of the prominent initiatives. This will give you an idea that Government of India has taken various initiatives spanning from one aspect or one sector to different sectors of higher education. Now, having realized that, we still have certain challenges. This sector is certainly plagued with certain issues. Let's see and have an idea about what are those. So first of all, it is inequitable access and low gross enrollment ratio. Like, first of all, what is inequitable access? This actually exists at various levels. It could be from geographic perspective. That means that some of the universities or most of the universities are concentrated in certain states. Some areas are not included. It could be rural remote areas or it could be certain states. Then also it could be gender wise. It is not equitable. It could also be certain stream wise. So again, I said it could also be from the level of accessibility and affordability. So this remains inequitable. It could also be from the perspective of quality of education as well as quantity, the number of universities and institutes and colleges. And when it comes to low gross enrollment ratio, like I said, at the global level, we have more than 36%, exactly to be 36.4%, which is the global gross enrollment ratio, average gross enrollment ratio at the global scale. But India is still at 28.6%. So we still have to go ahead. As per National Education Policy, this target is actually 15% by 2035. So we have ambitious target because we lie somewhere a little more than half of it, and even our target is more than that of the global level. So there are steps to be taken and a way ahead. Then comes down to politicization. Once in a while and every now and then we listen to these newspaper headlines and these articles telling and discussing about the politicization and probably controversies regarding the selection and appointment of chairperson and vice chairperson as chancellors and universities, and or sometimes president and vice president elections. Some provisions are there and some provisions are not there. Some discretion is there. So on those basis, we constantly keep on listening to these controversies. But this affects the environment of the colleges and overall higher education. Then, like I said, there is lack of autonomy. Giving autonomy to 20 institutes or some of the institutes does not augur well for other institutes, for the overall higher education environment and sector that we have. We have to ensure that there is an autonomy with respect to curriculum designing, courses selection, the funding that the institute needs, the faculty requirement. All of this aspect needs a certain degree of autonomy and freedom to have good quality and quantitative results. Then limited funding. When we are talking about higher education, it has to do with the funding with respect to R&D funding, that is research and development. If you have to compare with India's, which lies at around 0.61, or you can understand that it's about 0.6 to 0.7% of GDP. If we count and compare it with China, this is at 2.4%. But South Korea, which is one prominent and very impressive example, there it is around 4.8% of the GDP that is allocated and dedicated to the research and development. That's why they have so many companies figuring prominently on the global scale. Then there is another point, another challenge that we have is a shortage of faculty. To give you an idea, I will quote one example. If you see in 2023, there were almost 30 major vacancies that were lying if we just compared with 45 central universities. So prominent posts were lying vacant. And the case of brain drain. If we are preparing students, if we are investing, the country, India as a country is investing on students, we would want our effective human resource would stay in India and work for India, but that is not happening. In fact, at least not proportionally. So you can see in this infographic, nearly 8 lakh Indian students are studying abroad. Where is India lacking? So this is one huge and important question that is being raised from time to time. So you can see that sometimes these students do not get the quality education. Sometimes there are lack of institutes in number, in quantity. There are issues with respect to structure of the education that exists at the higher education level, and multiple factors and the challenges that we are discussing. Now coming down to the next point, there is also importance of industry and academia collaboration. Why? Academia gives you the important theory, the important understanding of the concept, but it is the industry where you employ and where you implement and execute that kind of knowledge and education. But that collaboration, if missing, let's say in the present world, if in any part of the world, if that collaboration is missing, then there will be a lot of wastage, there will be a lot of duplication of efforts which will take place, and the alignings of the knowledge that we get at the industry. And let's say if you get graduated from some college and go to a certain company, but it finds that you are not employable. So what do you mean by lack of employability? That means the learning that you have had at the college level is not up to the skills that is required for that particular job. So this collaboration is important so that both sectors are aware of the demand, supply and the needs of mutually concerned areas. Then there is uneven regional development of higher education. Like I said, there is inequitable access also. So when we talk about specifically about the regional division and development, you would see that there are states such as Delhi, then Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu. So these are some of the states which are there, which see the majority of the concentration of higher education institutes. But then there are certain regions like northeastern India or northeast states or the central regional part of India, where you will see that these institutions are scarce and they are not as per the division of the population, the concentration of the population that there exists. So then there is regional development that suffers. Also, there is a case of limited access to research institutes. What do I mean by this? That first of all, that most of the students that study at the higher educational level, 95% of them are studying in non-premier institutes. What are premier institutes? There are a range of institutes ranging from IITs, NITs, IIMs, medical institutes like AIIMS, and other, of course, there is research institutes also. But they are just they do not constitute more than 5% of the share of these institutes. And that is where 95% of the people are studying in non-premier institutes. Now you would see that, for example, there is one university, KAIT. It ensures that every year around 2,000 seats are available for computer science students. Now if you compare it with IIT Bhubaneswar, you would see there are only 60 seats. So if students are less, quality would be increased. Why? Because they would be given access to proper research, development, equipment, and proper timing is also allotted. So when you are keeping 2,000 seats, but the quality is not there, so you would have more graduates, but they would lack employability, they would lack good education, and they will not be skilled enough. Now, another point is lack of collaboration. So you would see there is lack of collaboration between teaching institutes and research institutes, or even between teaching and various research institutes also separately. For example, there is one successful example of NIT Surat, and which is collaborating and cooperating with IIT Mumbai or IIT Bombay. But this is not the case with majority of the premier institutes also. So there is lack of that kind of collaboration which is strictly needed. So these are the major challenges which I have tried to concisely present before you so that you understand what is the issue and its gravity. Now what can we do about it? So of course certain measures are there which we always recommend. First of all, we have to redefine the role of universities. They should not be taken somebody as who just gives you certain degrees, whether they are relevant or not. They have to ensure those degrees are relevant as per the demands of the industry, as per the demands of the situation and the city and the country and the society that you're living in. They have to ensure that they give you enough skills. They have to become skill developers. Then, Open Education Resource Initiative. This is something like on the lines of National Digital Library. Again, one of the successful example you would see at the scale or at the level of institutes, one of the universities in US, which you would probably be knowing by the name of MIT. It has its own free resources and accessible material which it freely avails. Anybody who's interested in knowing and learning, they can freely avail these sources. Then there is Entrepreneurship and Innovation Centers. Stanford University in US has come out with this initiative and developed this cell, whereby they are providing inputs with respect to mentoring the active entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs to be. They are also giving them funding, help. They are also monitoring, and of course, they are at the very inception stage, but all kind of help is being given to the new or upcoming entrepreneurs. So these initiatives could be emulated at other private or premier and governmental colleges that exist in India. Then there are transnational education partnership. So India, like I said, it has taken and allowed last year in 2023 as per the UGC guidelines that now the branch and campuses of foreign universities, top 500 global universities could be developed in India. Similarly, India is also developing the branch and campuses of its own premier institute, that is IITs and other institutes in global, on the global scale and in various countries. One example is that IIT Madras, which is developing one of its foreign campuses in Africa. You have to tell me what is which is the other IIT that is developing this campus at the global level other than India. So try to answer that in the comment section. Then there are also a case of some universities developing its own institutes in India. One is Deakin University from Australia. Try to tell me the other university, this is also from Australia, who has proposed to develop its campus in India. And this is different from the Deakin University. So coming down to the next point, and what measures can we take? We can also ensure competency-based credentializing. What do I mean by this? See, even if somebody has traditional learnings, we have to recognize that prior learning in some form, so that it could be expressed at the point by giving and producing some credential or credit-worthy certificates. So for that, we have to use science and technology, some technologies, especially blockchain technology, so that they remain verifiable and their prior learning could also be recognized. So this we can also do when we are trying to increase our enrollment. We are trying to increase the quality and the structure of higher education. So this was it, and I tried to give you the overall gist of this sector and what improvements do we need. Now is the time for you to answer mains practice question. So the question is, discuss the challenges and opportunities in India's higher education system, emphasizing the need for reforms to ensure quality, accessibility and inclusivity. Remember to divide your answer under these 3 subcategories. So try to answer this question into 50 words. Now we will proceed towards the second section of our today's current affairs, which is the simplified section. Starting with the first article, how ISRO achieved space docking and why it matters. So first of all, this is taken from Indian Express, and like I said, this is also deals with space aspect and of course science and tech segment, especially from GS3 subject. Now, as this the gist of the article is that for about a month we have been trying to successfully launch this experiment. Why? Because it holds a significance for various future initiatives that India expect to take as we go ahead. Be it Chandrayaan 4 or the Bharatiya, there is space station that we have to develop by probably in few years. So for that, this capability and facility of space docking is extremely crucial. And as the success had it, India has achieved this and has become the 4th country to do so. Now let us read more about this. First of all, this indicates great precision and scientific advancement on the part of Indian space capabilities, on the part of ISRO's achievements. India has, like I said, India has become the 4th country. What are other 3 countries? Those are US, again, then there is USSR, now Russia, and then there is also China. India has become the 4th country to do so. It's crucial for future mission and goals. The goal of taking to the probably modules, in different modules, the weight of worth 30 tons in lower Earth orbit and launching such launch vehicle, it is very crucial to have this capability. So first of all, there is this point of launch vehicle. Second, we have future missions where we'll be developing our own space station, and that would need multiple disbandment and again rejoining of those modules. Again, there is Chandrayaan 4 where we'll be taking some of these deposits from the moon back to the Earth, but it would again need multiple modules. So there are future missions and goals that are dependent on it. Now, what is this 3-meter distance? Well, there have been various experiments on this technology, and the distance has been decreased up till 3 meters. And of course, it was started from some 300 meters and it has been decreased over multiple experiments to 3 meters. Eventually, it was joined also, and then of course, again, it was taken to safe distance. And approach velocity was around to the tune of 10 millimeters per second. So by that you can understand that this was a stable experiment. Now when any 2 spacecraft, space docking is what? It is the concept of 2 spacecraft joining together and coming into the same orbit. So that takes place, this very process. And one successful example that you can witness at the global scale is the launch that took place in the past, which is International Space Station, where multiple countries like US, Russia and others also are collaborating and cooperating. Therein, this space station could only be launched because they had become successful in gaining the access, or they have been able to develop an experiment with this space docking technology. This was utilized to transfer and shift supplies, essential supplies, also the crew members in space. So like I said, this is one successful example where heavy spacecrafts were joined, again taken to the space, disbanded, again taken to the space, and again they were rejoined. So this is something of the gist that this article talks about. Then coming down to United States, specifically dealing about all of these examples, because we are just 4 countries who have the access and who have been able to experiment with this technology. First of all, United States in 1969, whereby you remember the name of Neil Armstrong, who became the first person or the first man to keep a foot on moon. So the technology which was utilized was space docking. So in 1966, NASA's Gemini 8, it became the first spacecraft to dock with the target vehicle Agena. So this example you can remember. Then again, in fact, it was the USSR, now Russia, which experimented with this technology even way before USA did in 1969. The USSR did this in 1967. But the only limitation was that it was uncrewed. That means it was unmanned. So this technology, USSR did it with respect to Cosmos 186 and 188 spacecraft. You can also try to remember this. Then in China, it came out with such technology and became successful in 2011 with the case of unmanned. There was no crew in the spacecraft, while it did it the same with the crew spacecraft that it did in next year in 2012. So of course, it became successful in 2011. Later on with manned crew, it did it in 2012. Now is the year when India has done it. India vision of heavy lift launch vehicle, like I said, it ambitions, and India has a strategy to achieve and try to put 30 tons of its spacecraft, 30 tons of spacecraft and the various modules. It tries to put in low Earth orbit. And that's why this development of launch vehicle, wherein this heavy weight could be taken into the space, is extremely crucial. Then there is like I said, I've already told that there is also a target of developing Bharti Antariksh Station, space station, Indian space station. So for that, we will need at least 5 modules, which have to be launched separately. And when it reaches into the space, we need to again band it together and join it, so that Bharti Antariksh Station is at one place. Chandrayaan 4, wherein the aim is to bring back deposits from the moon back to Earth and especially to India. It will also include 5 modules. It will take place under 2 subsections. You can read in detail about that. But now concentrating and focusing on the space docking, this could be used as one example. Now, like I said, this experiment has been conducted over a few trials, wherein the initial trial was supposed to happen at January 7, but with some simulations, they understood that this would be an aborted mission, and that's how they postponed it. Similarly, due to some deviation which was undecided and which was untargeted, again it was postponed from January 8. And on January 12, finally we got a success, and satellites were moved within 3 meters of distance in a trial attempt and then returned to a safe distance. Then on 16, we again were able to reduce from 3 meters, and we were able to eventually join them, and of course conducted it successfully. Now like I've said, there is a significance of it on various aspects, especially manned craft to the moon, building, operating an Indian space system. So this is all that we need. India has successfully demonstrated undocking. Now this was the docking experiment. Now ISRO and India overall will move towards developing the undocking experiment, because like I said, there are 2 parts, docking and undocking. So now the next step will be to move towards undocking experiment. So this was with regards to this article. Now moving to the second article of the simplified section. This is regarding the IMD, Indian Meteorological Department. It has completed 150 years. And now we'll see what this agency and what is this institution has done for years, how successful efforts it has taken when it comes to forecasting, and where would it see its future course. So first of all, it has acted as a successful forecasting agency, and it has as it say, forest accuracy has increased by 40%. So that is a huge improvement. Over the last decade, the increment has been 40%, accuracy has been increased. And how it has done this? So this increment of accuracy has been done by employing a large network of observational equipments. That could be Doppler weather radars, that could be automatic weather stations. Similarly, if I give you some data, Doppler weather radars specifically got increased from 15 in 2014 to around 40 or 39 specifically in 2024. So over 10 years, they almost more than doubled these number of Doppler weather radars. Similarly, in automatic weather stations, they almost became double, from 675 to 1208. Similarly, now we have also seen that they have developed and deployed rainfall monitoring stations. Because why? Because sometimes hazards, hydrological hazards such as rainfall, fog, they lead to loss of not just crops but of huge economic wealth of people and the country overall. This you would see that they have increased these stations, monitoring stations, right from around 4,000 to more than 6,000. You can note down just to see that what success IMD has achieved. Some data will be helpful to substantiate your points. Again, earlier we used to have one INSAT satellite to observe this weather and climate change over regional across various sections of India. Now we have deployed two, INSAT 3DR and 3DS. So these two satellites, they could be asked in your prelims. Please remember that initially there was only one INSAT 3D. Now they have two, INSAT 3DR and 3DS. Also, when it comes to resolution of weather models, they have decreased. Earlier it was 25 kilometers and now it has come down to 12 kilometers. What do I mean by this change? So 25 kilometers to 12 kilometers resolution. Earlier this was a large area. They used to analyze this whole area of 25 into 25 kilometers square. Now this has gone down to 12 into 12. When this area becomes smaller, then you are accurately and very precisely able to see the things in much details. So smaller the area, the better that is and the better the resolution. So resolution has decreased from 25 to 12. Of course, we have further aspirations to go further down, but we will see as we go ahead. Then if I start talking more about improved accuracy, and to give you certain examples, for example, almost 95% accuracy have been achieved in case of observing and utilizing the data from heat waves. And we are able to successfully predict within 2 days in advance. That effective that we have developed in case of heat waves. Now this accuracy was not always so. Just like I said, it is in 95% in case of heat waves. But in 2014, it was only 50%. This was 2014 and now it has increased to 95%, and this is the case of heat waves. Similarly, if we talk about cyclones, this accuracy has increased by, so plus 35 to 40% has increased here, and this increment has effectively brought us the results where we are seeing 0 cyclone related deaths. So this is again one very significant achievement and one good case study that you can use in your answers. It is a case of cyclone accuracy, and now we can successfully predict the track also. Now this has been with respect to forecasting function of IMD. Now it further wants to move towards zero error forecasting, where the forecasting error becomes 0 and it becomes predictable to almost an increase to its many disaster, not just heat wave and cyclone. So in this aspect, government and IMD has released vision document 2047. By 2047, where we intend to become the developed economy, we also want this vision development wherein we'll make the country climate and weather ready. How will we do it? We have elaborate plans of working and implementing certain provisions within 2 years, 5 years and 10 years, and then further in 22 years, which we are 22 years away from 2047. Then another, we have to reduce model resolution, which we, like I earlier said, we have reduced from 25 kilometers to 12. Now we will reduce from 12 to further 5 to 6 kilometers, and which will ensure our effective prediction and the accuracy goes till the level of village panchayat, not just remains till the district level. Then at block level, we have a plan of elaborate plans to come up, wherein for 3 days advance we will be able to predict with 0 error. And when it comes to 5 days in advance, we will predict it with around 90% accuracy. And with 70 days, we will again 80% accuracy. And in 10 days advance, we would predict it with 70%. So you can understand these points. This is what under Vision Document 2047 of IMD speaks about. And further to end it, now IMD wants to move. It would continue with the forecasting efforts, but it will also want to move with management, wherein it will manage rain, hail and fog. Why? Because they cause the most havoc. Similarly, Mission Mausam has also been launched, wherein we have launched one of a type cloud chamber. So this cloud chamber will ensure and work on the aspect of cloud physics, which will take care of time, amount and type of precipitation, and it could be modified as per the requirement. So this is one of the features that we have under, among other things that we have under Mission Mausam. Please remember this initiative also could figure prominently in your prelims. Then observations could be made. Further, if you have to improve these observations, what we can use, we can take to technology. We can use a blockchain technology to come out with verifiable our own models. Then we can use unmanned aerial vehicles, we can use radars, we can use fully automated weather station, then various sensors also. And now we will come out with mechanism to observe the various phenomena in upper atmosphere also at the region of 100 km with the resolution of 100 kilometers, that is 100 km into 100 kilometers square kilometers area, grid. So if you know what grid means, so this is 100 kilometers and this is again 100 kilometers. This would give you the area. And we will use various satellites, aircrafts, radars, sensors, wind profilers. Okay. Better data, of course, we need to come up with better equipment, better technology. So this is the 150 years of IMD. This is the vision that we keep. This was the gist of the article. And please make sure that the concepts such as and the initiatives such as Mission Mausam, you read well about them before going into prelims. Then the next article of the day, which speaks of the ranking that India has achieved in the World Future Skills Report 2025. India has overall ranked at 25th, and in the case of one of the parameters which speaks about the jobs of future, where India ranks second. This is one of the very significant ranking that India has achieved, and India lies only second to United States. So that means India has been successful and saw some success when it comes to achieving that kind of success in generating future jobs. Now let's read more about this to have you the clear understanding. So like I said, this QS World Future Skills Index 2025, it has come out with its own report. It has give Indian ranking on various parameters. Overall average ranking is at 25th. And India remains a future skills contender. Why am I saying that? Because there are other countries such as United States, Canada, UK, Germany and others which are actually pioneers, future skills pioneer. But when you compare India with respect to these countries, India is at the state of future skills contender. That means India is trying hard but still to reach at the top levels. Now when it comes to future of work, the theme, the parameter future of work, India is second. Which talks about and speaks of various tech-driven, technology-driven and sustainable industries that would occur in future and where we have to transit inevitably to ensure that job and this job concentration and job economy remains prominent. Then demand side assessment. This ranking specially is based on demand side assessment. What do I mean by that? That they have taken job postings and various advertisements related to future based jobs, which could be in the field of probably renewable energy or green economies. It could be in the field of digital arena. Then they could also be from such as AI based jobs. So these posts and advertisements have been taken under consideration to come out with this demand side assessment and of course with the parameter of future of works. Around 380 million job postings at the global level has been gauged through. So this will give you an idea of where this ranking comes from. But India actually fares very low and probably very poorly on the aspect and parameter of skills fit. So India, the population and demography that India has, the workforce that India has, it's not skill apt. The skills that India's workforce has are not appropriate as per the jobs of the time. They are not changing as per the needs of the industry, especially not remaining competitive at the global scale. So this I have summarized it for you. Skills fit, India scored low. Score is at around 59.1, but like I said, the data in itself is not important. The quality of it, the reasons of it is important. So you can remember the category of skills fit, what it is about, and you can just write that India fares poorly. Why it fares poorly, that is important for your analysis. Another findings are that why do we have this skill gap between the industry and the education and the degrees that we are achieving? Because there are higher education challenges. I have already dealt and discussed this aspect in the second article. Please go through it, you will have a broader understanding. Although India on the positive side has received full marks and almost 100% score for economic capacity. So when it comes to capacity, India is nowhere lagging. India in fact remains at top. It has achieved full scoring. What do I know economic capacity? Probably the land availability, or it could be your skill potential that Indians could gather. It could be excess surplus labor that India has, that India comparative advantage is also about the labor surplus. So India remains a potential place, but this needs to be utilized. Another point is that India scores low and remains low and performs poorly when it comes to future-oriented innovation in sustainability. Now, as we are transitioning towards a sustainable India or sustainable world, global world, we need to ensure that there are innovations and technology which are future-oriented and not just keeping in mind the present contingency. But there we see the lack of funding, the lack of efforts, lack of initiative, be at the state level, government level, or at the private sector, they are lying low. There are also gaps in investment on every aspect, private, public, governmental. So we have to ensure that this investment is filled up, be it the research and development, be it the higher education institutes, be it the collaboration between these academia and industries. We have to ensure that competitiveness is there. If there is no competitiveness at the global scale, of course, jobs will transfer from one place to another, not just in goods sector, but also in service sector. Then exports will also suffer. The import capability and compatibility will also suffer. And along with this, we need university level reforms where, like I said, multiple times I have revised it for you so that you have to, you remain conscious of the fact that this alignment is very important. It's not enough to have degrees. You have to become employable. You have to become skilled so that you are always, or as an employee, you're always in demand. The jobs are also in alignment with the potential and education that you have. So this is what this World Future Skill Index report talks about. Now moving forward, this article is about the drone Didis and the central sector scheme of that you have seen about this drone scheme. So what happens is, this is a particular, if you read the introduction of this article, I have to point it out here. This kind of beginning, this is a separate from your GS, special GS subjects, but you can use this kind of introduction in your essays. This will be benefit there. You can use some anecdote, you can take some case studies and this example, the success of this scheme, and probably use in your essays. Now moving towards this particular article, the gist is that this scheme has seen success and now going along with the feminization of agriculture that is taking place across India, because in rural and remote areas generally men go out to earn their livelihood, and they're also because of the seasonal nature of agriculture. So women remain behind and they become the primary stakeholder in agriculture landscape also. So it is very important for them to understand how they can improve this agriculture. Therein comes the role of science and technology, and one of the significant initiatives where the primary stakeholders are women. it is helping in not just in rural development, but also empowerment of females. So that's why it's a central sector scheme, Namo Drone Didi scheme. So there are women SSG self-help groups which are formed. They are given training, hands-on training in some institutes. They are registered in courses. They are given their experience. They are also given this equipment in the form of drones, and then they use it for their uses. And it's not limited to agriculture only, but just in this article, the success is of when they have employed articles in their agriculture. So with this scheme, women actually become skilled drone pilot, and then they become employable in various sectors, right from agriculture to various services, to various education initiatives, health initiatives and whatnot. In farming supply chain gets better, because now they can, even if the weather and climate is not as per the season or probably not favoring them, they can use this technology to have an idea, an advanced idea about what is the next step that has to be taken. Like I said, there is a provision of hands-on training. There is also a provision of pilot training classes. Then, of course, you would be equipped with drones also, and you would become, and a women would become skilled drone pilot. Wide range of farmers requirement, pesticides or fertilizers, they could be deployed. They could be, and then also they could be used to water the fields upon certain crops, and it will vary crop to crop, but this could also be done. So this was the scheme, but there are particular features of this scheme. Like I said, it is not just limited to the agriculture sector. It is also we can also collaborate with various industries, private companies, government bodies for practical training and job placement. So that these trained women pilots could be utilized in other sectors and could be given various jobs. Focus has been kept till rural areas to enhance agriculture productivity, reduce the workload of farmers, especially women. Mechanical aspect could be used, and this manual workforce could be, again, this extra work could be reduced. Potential is that it's could also be utilized in technology, other service sector. Again, agriculture efficiency could be improved, and dependence on manual labor, excess manual labor could be reduced, where there are more than required people are employed in an agriculture field, where it becomes subsistence farming. So for that, I think these drones could be utilized. Rural women would eventually become entrepreneurs. They will take care of other emerging needs when they are the primary stakeholder who are living in rural areas in absence of other family members. So this is from the prelims aspect. Now the last article of the day, which is about the upcoming Republic Day, 26th January. So India has invited Indonesian President to be the chief guest, and this is not the first time that the Indonesian President has been invited. In fact, he would be the 4th Indonesian President to be the chief guest in the Republic Day of India. Now reading more about this, the President Prabowo Subianto, he'll be the chief guest on this upcoming Republic Day parade. And this would be the largest foreign contingent that India has received to walk and march down Kartavya Path along Indian Army. So this you have to remember that this year it was Indonesian President who was invited. And like I said, it is the largest foreign contingent so far on Republic Day. Along with it, it's not just about it will be a multiple days visit, wherein this president, the deal of BrahMos cruise missile will also undertake. India has started exporting this missile to different countries. You have to tell me which was the first country to receive the export from India of this missile. Second is, of course, is going to be the Indonesia. We are going to discuss this deal when the president arrives in Delhi. So mention in the comment section which is the first country which has signed similar agreement with India. Other Indian military platforms are also in the foray. For example, Akash missiles. Then there are also Dhruv helicopters. They could also be involved under the consultations that we are having. Akash missiles. They are also into talks. Then you have to remember that Indonesia, we have had relations for over a millennia now, right from economics, trade, culture, P2P and trade. We have over multiple sectors that we have developed successful relations. In fact, we have achieved comprehensive strategic partnership status at the country's level. It is a prominent partner in Act East policy. It also figures prominently in Indo-Pacific vision. It is a member of ASEAN. And various MOUs are aligned when the president visits India. There is going to be a larger discussion where MOUs right from health, education, employment, skill, all of etc. will take place when the president arrives. So this is regarding the Republic Day chief guest. So this was all for today. I hope this session was fruitful for you. All the best and thank you.